move a little bit to the east. Eventually, it'll weaken. Now, as you head towards 2 o'clock in the morning, Missouri quieting down. You have some storms that are falling across the Tennessee Valley into areas of the lower Mississippi Valley. But the severe component should really go down, especially with the loss of that daytime heating. What you're looking at now, though, is the threat for multiple days of severe weather and not necessarily in the same spot. So for Tuesday, we're looking in through Kansas. Wichita is going to be under that threat. Hays all the way down towards OKC. Large hail will be the main concern coming out of this. You jump in towards Wednesday, Colorado, Wyoming, and then you jump into Thursday. We're shifting further to the east in through the southern plains. But some of these areas could really use that moisture. One of them is across Kansas. We could use some of that heavy rain. It'd be nice if it came without that severe threat, but that is something we're going to be looking at. The one area where we could see some spin within these storms is going to be across areas of Kansas, a little bit of Oklahoma there, and then you're also noticing pushing a little bit further into extreme northeast Colorado and even a little bit of Wyoming. But that's where we're looking at a little bit of that shear in the atmosphere. What we're also going to see is a widespread threat of hail, anywhere from large hail to very large. That would be in that darker shade there, where you could see some of the larger hail size and have more of a likelihood of it. Future track in terms of the timing for Tuesday, you can see it right there, the afternoon coming across portions of Kansas, dipping a little bit further to the south into Kansas City, eventually ejecting even further off to the south and east. Now for Tulsa, some storms in the forecast for Tuesday, for Wednesday, and for Thursday. Again, this isn't a washout of a day, but where you just have to be weather aware and ready to go.
I'm Amy Freeze. Welcome to Fox Weather's YouTube page. We have more great videos on the way, so make sure to subscribe to stay updated on all things weather.